Welcome into the Swarmcast here on the ESPN Houston YouTube channel and the ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Joe George, Will Kunkel here with you to talk all things Houston Texans. This episode is brought to you by Blue Star Tequila, the world's first and only night harvested tequila. You can find it near you in plenty of bars and liquor stores right here in Houston at bluestartequila.com. Will?
Super Bowl watch is back on, baby.
The Texans are alive. I mean, look, it's I did not think that game was going to go the way it did against the 49ers. We'll talk about that game. We'll talk about the Broncos game coming up. We'll talk about DeMeco versus the media. It'll be our last show that we record before the trade deadline.
Today is?
As well, yeah.
November 4th.
Because November 4th is the deadline, so our next show will be post-deadline. Let's start. I want to look ahead first before we look backwards at what happened with the 49ers game and the media and DeMeco and all that stuff. Right now, at this moment, the Texans are 1.5-point favorites against the Denver Broncos. Now, Patrick Surtain is out of this game. On Wednesday, we saw the return of Nico Collins and Christian Kirk to practice. So based on what you saw last week versus the 49ers, are you surprised that they're the betting favorite by a small margin against the Broncos?
So remember, always you get 3 points for being at home.
Yes.
So technically, at a neutral site, the Broncos are 2.5-point favorites. I don't know if I'm surprised. Yes, I'm surprised, but then you also have to kind of go into the weeds a little bit with the fact that Patrick Surtain is not in there, and it looks like Nico and Christian are back. So, you know, it's another situation where the Texans are getting real lucky, and you don't make any apologies for that. Like, you don't meet a team at their best, and who gives a damn? Because all wins count the same in the standings. Now, not every win counts the same when you're looking at evaluation and who you are as a team and where you stack up in the NFL. But when it comes to the standings, every single win is the same. You don't make any apologies. And so I'm a little surprised, but, you know, Vegas seems to know what they're doing. They had them favored against the Niners.
I know. And we lost, me and my crew, we were at LaBerge in Lake Charles, and we all lost a bunch of money. Betting against the Houston Texans this last weekend.
Yeah.
So it was not great. But yeah, I think it is funny when you look at the Broncos schedule, and they're 6-2, but they've beat the Titans, they beat the Bengals, they beat the Eagles, but they've beaten the Jets, the Broncos, the Cowboys. Like, their schedule hasn't been like murderer's row of good teams. The games they've lost are to the Colts, they lost to the Chargers. Like, they've lost really two of the three good football teams they've played this year, and the Eagles were in that weird rut when they played them. So it's hard to, I think, get a grasp of who the Broncos are now. I'm a believer, but I do think that you look at Bo Nix versus the Texans defense, I'm like, okay, I can see how that matchup, plus with Surtain being out, does lead to a small, slight home favorite for the Houston Texans.
However, the greatest weakness for the Texans is the greatest strength of the Broncos, and we've seen that weakness show itself every single time they've played a team that has the ability to rush the passer, and that is pass blocking. The Broncos get pressure on the quarterback 45.9% of the time. That is 6% more than the next team in the NFL. They are the best in the NFL at doing that. The Texans are in the middle of the pack, a little bit below that when it comes to protecting CJ Stroud. But we also have to be fair in the fact that some of those numbers are a little bit skewed in that they do really well against not good pass rushing teams, such as the Titans, such as the Ravens, and now the 49ers. They had their best pass protection game against the 49ers. They're missing a lot of guys on that defense. We can obviously get into that and what that game actually meant. But again, make no apologies for an ass whipping when your offense does look that good. So this game is an interesting matchup because where the Texans get exposed, that's what the Broncos do really well at exposing.
Yeah, I mean, and look, we saw something that was very different with the offense in the 49ers game. We saw them run, the Texans, the most plays of any team in the NFL this season with 6 offensive linemen on the field.
Was 29?
I think so. It was like 26, 26 29.
There must be 26. You're probably right.
I think, well, it's a 6 or a 9. It just depends on which way you look at the number. But that's very interesting to me because, like, in a way, it shows, like, you're aware of your weaknesses, I think, of, like, hey, like, we need that extra guy out there. Now, when you look at some of the plays, it didn't necessarily help them. One of them that stands out for me is the 3rd and 1 on the first drive of the game. They bring in Blake Fisher, and I think it was Woody Marks still gets stuffed in the backfield, and Kaimi has to come out there and kick the field goal. So you went with the extra offensive lineman, You still couldn't execute on short yardage situation or really in the red zone in this game. 1 for 5 against the 49ers. So, like, the flaws are still there. That's why I don't really know how I feel about the 49ers game because the protection was better. The defense was good. Mac Jones was making he was like two different quarterbacks. It just depended on the play. He would make throws that were like jaw-dropping, and then he would make throws like, this guy stinks and doesn't belong in the NFL. So I don't really know how to view this last game. Like, while it's exciting, I still look at the struggle on short yardage situation, the struggles in the red zone, and be like, that does not to me look like a winning football team in that capacity. And those problems haven't been addressed just yet.
So the fact is that it's the best win they have all season.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is also that the 49ers were banged up. They're not at their best. But they were good enough to get a little bit of a litmus test, I think mostly for the defense, honestly, because this is a matchup that we thought could, I don't know, maybe give the Texans fits, but like if Kyle Shanahan comes into your building with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and a quarterback of his choosing, it doesn't really matter, then it seems like he usually has some success. Mm-hmm. They had no friggin' success. He even did some things that were a little curious. He pulled his center a couple times. He had Greg Jennings blocking down on Hunter, what's his first name?
Danielle Hunter?
Danielle. Like, I wanted to say DeWan. On Danielle Hunter, like doing things that are out of character for him that don't make sense. And maybe that's because DeMeco Ryans' defense is that damn good. It makes you do things you don't normally do because you're just trying to find success somewhere. So I think it actually said some really good things about this defense and what they were able to do to Kyle Shanahan and that team. And then offensively, you took advantage of a banged up defense, but you did it in ways we kind of have wanted to see all year. So I think that was good. But again, it's not a measuring stick game, to be fair. It's not a, hey, we're playing with the big boys. Yep, this was our stamp of we've figured it out. We are now playing amongst the tier. Now bring on anybody. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who we play. No, it was an okay team. It
was a necessary win. Like, to keep your season alive, you needed that win. Like, after the Seattle game on a short week, like, you have to win that game against the 49ers. They do that. And even the Broncos game here coming up, like, yes, Surtain's not going to be out there. But that, to me, does not change the fact that this is a measuring stick game. Like, this is your first game. You're like, okay, this is a real team in the AFC. Are they a Super Bowl contender? No, I don't think so. But they're going to be a playoff team this year.
Yeah,
they're legit.
Yeah, like, they're probably not a Super Bowl contender, you're right. But they're one of those teams that, like, if they get enough pressure, they can kind of go as far as they want if their offense allows them, which is exactly who the Texans are.
And you have a coach who is a Super Bowl champion. Mm-hmm. Like Sean Payton is a great coach. You can't deny that. Like, Vance Joseph has done a great job with that defense going back to Denver. And so this is a game where, I think specifically what you said, like the offensive line versus the pass rush, Bonito, like, and what Denver is going to be bringing to this game, it is going to be a huge test for the Houston Texans of, like, what did you see in San Francisco? It reminds me a lot of, like, the conversation going to the Seattle game. How I feel about this game is, okay, before the bye week, we saw signs of life. We saw things from the offense that were really positive. In this game, we saw CJ Stroud without Nico Collins distribute the ball around to pretty much everybody. Higgins, Knoll, Braxton Berrios, like Dalton Schultz, they all have good games this week. How does that translate to the following week if both Christian Kirk and Nico Collins are healthy on the field? That, to me, is kind of the question with the offense.
We have a tough time figuring out what we're going to see week to week because we don't know what we're going to see week to week because of their schedule. So people that are like, it don't matter who you play, you kick ass, no matter what, a win is a win, like, yes and no, because they've looked really good against the Ravens, Titans, a banged up 49ers team. Those are their three best wins. And like, they look up here when they're playing teams down here, and then it flips when they play the Seahawks. So it's so hard to figure out, are we going to get what we saw against the 49ers? Are we going to get what we saw against the Seahawks? Because the Broncos are closer to the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. Are they going to look that bad again? I have a hard time thinking that they're going to look that bad again, but I also have a hard time thinking that they're just all of a sudden going to, like, string it all together and be consistently really damn good.
Yeah, but like, I feel like the best way I can describe this is, I've heard this term a lot more this year than in the past. This feels like a gateway game for the Texans. Where, like, You lose to the Broncos, and we know where this season's going. Like, it's just going to be the same thing that it's been. You're going to be up and down. You're going to play.
You are
play good against the good,
100%.
good against the bad teams, bad against the good teams.
Yes, 100 exactly.
But like, you win this game. Okay, you've won 2 games in a row. You then play the Jaguars. You then play the Titans. You can then be on a 4-game winning streak going into the Thursday night game against the Buffalo Bills.
And I did this thing on Kicking It with Kunkel, my show on YouTube, where I was looking at EPA. So it basically tells you on the y-axis how good you are defensively, on the x-axis how good you are offensively. And the Texans are at the very top in the league defensively, but they're on the wrong side of the y-axis offensively, so they're in the negative territory. Every team they've beaten is bad defensively and bad offensively in the analytics. Every team they've lost to is in the other quadrant. They are good offensively and good defensively. The Broncos are good offensively and defensively. They're actually right next to where the Seahawks are. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they perform, because this is a true test of your trend in progressing. We talk about it all year. Like, coaches say this all the time. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. The season is a progress. Like, and we all know this. The team you are in week 17 is not the team you are in week 1. And it takes a long time to get to where you want to be. It's a process, right? Well, this is part of that arc and that process to see if they are there yet. Because if not, then they're not. Then they take a step back into like a different quadrant. The Texans have to get enough offense to beat good teams. The question isn't their defense. The question is, can they get enough offense against a good team to get a win?
I mean, like the defenses. Like
the defense is awesome.
Christian McCaffrey the week before has 200 yards from scrimmage, and they shut him down. He only had 8 carries because they were, the
time of possession was crazy.
The time of possession is different. Like they controlled the 49ers game basically from start to finish, and they could have won by a lot more. And I'll say the red zone numbers are the ones that is that good enough to beat Denver? No, I think that's the reason why the Texans are in the position that they are. Is that they've lost 4 games this year by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion or less, and a lot of it goes down to red zone conversion. Like, if you convert more in the red zone, which was, they were 0 for 8 to start the season in their first 3 games. This team's in a much different place. That to me is the ultimate question. What this game is going to come down to is they're getting the ball to the scoring opportunities, but they're having to rely too much this season on Kaimi Fairbairn to save the day and get them some points. You have to convert against Denver if you're going to win this game.
I agree, but I'm also I'm kind of stay consistent where I've been with what I want from the offense and what we need from the offense. And the third down efficiency numbers are what I want. Not what I want more, but what they need more, because it takes more to get the red zone conversions. Because one, you got to get there, and then you got to be able to finish the drive, and then it all condenses and it becomes tougher. So I'm not even asking for that. The third down conversions, they were 9 of 16 for the game against the 49ers, and that's what I want consistency with. That's what not that they're going to convert at that rate. They were the 31st ranked team in the NFL. There's 32 teams in the NFL. They were the second worst team in the entire NFL when it came to converting on third downs. And they were 30%-ish. They were near 60%, at 70% at one time against the 49ers. If you can hold on to the ball, move the ball, convert on third down, and kick field goals, fine, then you're going to win a lot more than you're going to lose with this defense. And so you're right. If they convert to touchdowns, it's over. This team is legitimately a Super Bowl contending team. But I think we can be honest that they're not going to be consistently scoring touchdowns week in and week out. So just get the third down conversions, get into the fair side of the 50-yard line, and then get field goals.
Because I think it's something that we've talked a lot about this year so far. It's just being competent. You're 9 for 16 on third down against the 49ers. You're 2 for 15 against the Seattle Seahawks.
And there's a clear discrepancy in the competition level. That's why. It's not a matter of we executed, we didn't execute, we called the right plays, we didn't call the right. There is the other team. Are you talented enough to combat what is across the line from you? That is part of it too.
Well, and they can't run on 3rd and 1.
At least they did the QB sneak.
Yes, but I didn't like one of them.
They got 2 of them?
3. But there was the one where CJ Stroud took a step backwards to the right and then followed it, and I was I don't like the way that looked. It worked. I was watching it on the replay. I was that feels that's gonna get blown up the next time they try that.
I liked it because it looked like a design.
Yes.
I don't like CJ taking the ball, and then I think it's the one where he kind of like turned his back, right?
Yeah.
At the very end. I just don't
Yeah.
like the shot he could take there, but that's a size.
Well, if you're going to do that, like, can you lean your left shoulder in?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like you're not.
And these
you're
are the nitpickings
yeah.
I'd rather have versus the offense is a joke.
Yeah, no, but the offense was great in this game. Like,
Yes.
they ran the ball well. Like, Woody Marks, we saw, like, his explosion in the 49ers game, like, what he can do. Just, like, getting the ball into open space and the impact he can make. I thought Nick Chubb ran the ball well. Like, I would still like to see that the carries flip. I guess, like, they're not there with Woody Marks yet. I want to see Woody Marks getting, just more carries than Nick Chubb. I don't even care about a number anymore. So Woody Marks more than Nick Chubb.
I would like Woody to get more touches just because of the receiving aspect.
Sure.
Nick's actually been a pretty decent receiver out of the backfield.
Yeah, he's been
this
solid.
year, despite not really doing it much in his entire career. I wonder if the Texans, because the Texans' goal of identity, as we've talked about in the past, what they want to do, they haven't been able to do it, is to impose their will on you physically up front in a running game downhill style. So I wonder if they're still trying to establish that identity in games with Nick Chubb, because he's a pile mover, and he did a good job with that against the 49ers. And then go to Woody Marks, go outside the boxes and inside the tackles with him at times, but also give him the ball on the outside after establishing the run downfield. I wonder if they're trying to do that, Sonic, Knuckles, Lightning, Thunder type of deal with the differentiators between them.
And look, it's been working to an okay level. I think there's another level it can go to that goes back to the blocking. Still. Like, it just, like, we saw, like, they had like 130, I think, rushing yards combined between those two guys, CJ Stroud, and then the one carry for Ogunbowale in the game this last weekend. Like, that can still go to another level in this one. I do feel like they got bullied a little bit into the quarterback sneak thing. Which,
fine. However you get there, as long as you arrive at the right answer, good, whatever it takes. I don't love the fact that if that's the way you got there, it's like, especially when a lot of that staff seems to disrespect the media and not have respect for the fan base, as a lot of media members are saying, then why are you listening? If that's how you got there. I don't know that's how they got there.
It's what it feels like. It's hard.
And probably from our perspective, there's no way that someone else in that building was like, hey, Nick, just sneak the damn ball.
No.
Surely DeMeco was like, Nick, I love what we're trying to do here. However, let's just go A to B.
Yes. QB sneak, easiest play possible. Let's talk about it, though, because we talked about the 49ers game. Enough people have talked about it, so I didn't want to lead with it, but like we have to discuss what happened this week, because it's a bit strange of a week. Like, it starts immediately after the game. We start to hear DeMeco in his press conference start to talk about us, keeping a team together. We really see the post-game speeches that both DeMeco and CJ Stroud make. They're like, it's us versus everybody. It's the Texans versus the world. It's the Texans versus the media, basically. It's like, don't let the outside noise fool you, is basically the communication that they're having internally. And that's very clear. Like, they used it as bulletin board material in some capacity this last week of like, this is what people in your market, this is what people nationally, this is what fans are saying about this team. They used it as motivation. It worked. It got them the win versus the 49ers. But then we have the DeMeco press conference in which he kind of challenges the fact, he's asked a question to defend DeMeco a little bit. Like, he's asked a question about like the reaction to the team and everything, and he goes in this little tangent about positive versus negative coverage. And then we see Landry Locker, DJ Bieniemy, they push back pretty hard. Like, and I like the pushback honestly from both sides. I like that DeMeco's like, hey, like, I think the coverage is not totally fair, even though I don't agree with that. And I like the fact that the media members were pushing back against what DeMeco was saying. First time you watched it, because you weren't there, right?
No, I wasn't there that day, but I watched it live. I was involved live, and listen, I went in on DeMeco on the identity thing, so I have no doubt, maybe it's me just being like in my feelings or whatever, I have no doubt he was in part talking to me about it, and I've had talked to people in the Texans building about that as well. But I did a full breakdown of this on my show, Kicking It with Kunkel, and I'll give you the cliff notes here. I have no problem with DeMeco saying that the media thrives on negative, or that people like get clicks on negative coverage. But when he said that nobody covers the positive, I'm like, bro, that's just not true. Like, it's absolutely false. You're telling me no one's talked about the defense and how elite it is and how it can be the top 5, and that we came into the season, and I personally said AFC South champions, at least 10 wins, AFC championship game here in Houston's the goal. Like that, those are my predictions. They were high. They were for real. They were positive, super positive. But if you think I'm going to watch the first 3 games and be like, yep, that's the goal, that we're still there, I'm not changing. Like, bro, the offense was atrocious. The reason you lost the game was not because of defense, it was because of the offense. And of course, he's like, the hot story is negative. You dictate what the hot story is. The Texans dictate what the hot story is. And the story isn't that the defense is elite. Yes, that's mentioned. But it becomes a footnote when the defense is being dragged down by the offense. Therefore, when your goal is the Super Bowl and the reason you're not achieving a standard to reach that goal is the offense is so bad, that's the story. And it's not us making up the narrative. It's not us wanting negatives. I promise you, I'll speak for myself. I promise you, I want that offense to be awesome, this team to be undefeated, and them flying through to become champions in the AFC South into a Super Bowl. Like, I want that way more than having to criticize Nick Caley's game plan, the blocking, the play calling, whatever it might be. Because that's the problem, is that when the offense is that bad, the good stuff does get buried. So DeMeco's not wrong in that. But don't say people don't mention how good the defense is. Like, that's just not true. And then DJ and Landry really pushed back because DeMeco's words weren't factually accurate. And they were like, so wait, you don't feel like you've gotten any positive press coverage, especially the first 2 years? Especially, like, I have maintained that DeMeco Ryans, Nick Caley, and Nick Caserio should not be fired during this season. I think they should see out the year, and I think DeMeco and Nick should stay in the building. Now, obviously, I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the way. God forbid it implodes. Like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I like them being in this building for the foreseeable future. Nick Caley's on a wait-and-see moment right now because it hasn't gone extremely well at all. His unit is the reason it's failing. But they push back, and they're like, we gave you, the city has loved you for years because you turned around the franchise. Like, you've changed it. And you also change the standards. And with that comes more criticism, or at least like the caring of where it's going wrong.
Yeah, so that's where I think, like, if I had a conversation with DeMeco, I'd be like, look, man, like, this is the coverage that you want. Like, this is not, because, like, if you want, we can go back to where it was 3 years ago, before you got here, in which the Monday after a Texans game, you got 5 minutes, and that's all you got in a 3-hour radio show. Because it's just the truth, right? Like, no one cared. Like, the fans didn't care. They didn't come to the games. Now, like, one thing I'm glad they didn't do was really acknowledge the amount of 49ers fans, because, like, you don't want to step on the fans too much, because it was a 49ers crowd at that game. It was, I'm not too surprised, because, like, even the Bills game last year was like heavy Bills. Hell, the Bears game last year was heavy Bears fans. Like, but like this one felt like to a
2 years ago.
Yeah, this one felt like to a different level. But also, like, San Francisco only comes to Houston every couple of years, so, like, they're more likely to travel and those fan bases show up in droves, like, when they get to play here. But, like, the coverage, I think the way you put it is right. Where, like, the pushback against the coverage is that it's deserved because of the standard that was created by the Texans, and they're playing below their standard. Which I find ironic, because is what then DeMeco said, is he used the word standard in one of his press conferences, I think in the same day or maybe later in the week, where he talked about, we know the standard to win games, but you've yet to meet those standards on a consistent basis in the 2025 season.
You're an under 500 team.
Yeah, you're falling below your standard.
What do you want me to do about it?
And the other thing, too, is, like, the criticism. Part of the reason why the criticism is so strong this year with the Texans is because of the correct decision that DeMeco made, is the firing of Bobby Slowick. When you are a playoff team and you win a playoff game, and we're all saying, fire Bobby, and then you do it, you kind of give us fire of, like, hey, like, we're on the same page as the Houston Texans a little bit. Like, so because you fired your OC when you're winning playoff games, you're also holding your own organization to a higher standard. So, yeah, I think the pushback on both sides is fair. Like, I don't need a coach to go up there and be like, yeah, we love the negative. Like, I'm cool with DeMeco pushing back. Like, I got no problem with it. I love it. And I love that the media pushed back too. So, like, I thought it was funny. Like, I was like, get your popcorn ready. Like, I was like, this is great. Like, this is, well, we never get stuff like this. I almost swore. Like, we never get stuff like this in Houston. We get, like, vanilla boring. Like, that's all we ever get. Like, we make fun of Nick Caserio. We make fun of Joe Espada. We make fun of, like, the Rockets are pretty honest, of, like, just the vanilla lies or things they tell us because like it's just boring most of the time. So I love this. I was like, I need more of this in my life.
Yeah, I thought I had no problem with it outside of the non-truth that was told by DeMeco that nobody wants to cover the positive. That isn't true. Yes, the negative is leading right now, but that's not because the media prefers it that way or like if this team's 8-0, the stories aren't negative. I promise you.
There's no negative.
No, dude. Like, it's a very different tenor. And again, to your point, if the expectations were to be like, if you were the Browns and you had this defense, all the stories would be positive because the expectation isn't to be any damn good. So let's celebrate the building block that we hopefully have for the future to eventually be a competitive team. Now, dude, like the Texans are a competitive team. The Texans are expected. Their own owners said they wanted more this year than they had last year, which means AFC championship. Not AFC South champion, an AFC championship. And they're very far from that right now. And to your point, getting rid of Bobby Slowick, I didn't think that they should or shouldn't fire Bobby Slowick. I just thought they needed to bring in someone veteran to either help him or replace him. Whatever that decision was not up to me. But when you make the move, you assume it's a move forward. It hasn't been a move forward.
Yeah, largely it's been a move backwards.
Yeah, and even if it's not backwards, it's certainly not forward. Like, it's just stagnant. Whatever it is,
yeah.
This is another thing. I feel for DeMeco in this sense, and I genuinely feel bad for him, that for 2 years now, he has to get up there on Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. 5 days a week. He is mandated by the NFL to talk to the media, and he has to answer questions about a crap offense while his defense is dominating. Mm-hmm. His defense year in and year out is awesome, and it's the offense that's dragging this team down and dragging him down, and now he has to continuously do it 5 days a week for a second straight season. That's gotta wear on him. Yeah. Like, he's like,
because that's where if there's no outside noise, like we know in the Bill O'Brien era, like there was like little birdies, like they would go to Bill and tell him like, this is what the flagship's saying, this is what's being written on ESPN, like this is what 97.5 is saying. Like we know that. Like there is enough trail of proof that like I'm like still a up and comer in Houston, I would say to myself. Like, and I still got stuff from like, man, like can't believe you said that. And I'm like, how do you know what I have to say? Like I was making $10 an hour at another station. Like what does it matter what I say? Like that was the Bill O'Brien era. If DeMeco doesn't consume any media, then yes, there's only negative coverage to what you just said. Because all he gets asked is largely negative questions because the offense has been cheeks for 2 years.
Yeah, but I'll even push back on that. Like in those press conferences, let's just say there's 20 questions asked. I don't know. I'd say 8 or 9 of them are about the offense in a negative way. 2 or 3 are about the offense in a positive way. And then like there's a smattering of questions of like, tell me about this guy. What does he bring your team? Tell me about that guy. What does he bring your team? Because a lot of people are just doing exposés on individual players. For instance, last week, Jonathan Alexander of the Chronicle did a story on Xavier Hutchinson. So it was all positive about Xavier. He wasn't going to do a negative story about X. So it was all positive there. So you can't tell me that there's no positive coverage. But yes, dude, we are covering your team. And your team dictates what I don't ever say that I know more football than anybody in that building. They've forgotten more than I'll ever know. Mm. But even like us on the outsiders know enough about football to be like, the offense doesn't look great.
Yeah.
Like that should be fixed and better. Like,
yeah.
So we talk about it.
And you know what? You beat the Broncos this weekend. It's gonna be a lot of positive coverage.
Hell yeah, exactly.
Like ultimately, like you beat the Broncos. Like you beat a team that's largely healthy. You beat a quarterback that's played pretty damn well since he came into the NFL. You beat a Super Bowl coach. Now you officially beat a player that you were drafted with because the Broncos have signed Mercedes Lewis, who was drafted like 6 picks before DeMeco Ryans.
Stop traffic.
I saw that and I was like,
Lewis,
I can't believe I was
the
like
Jaguar.
I'm like, I cannot believe like that guy was drafted the same year as DeMeco Ryans, and he's gonna be on the Broncos roster in the game which DeMeco is coaching.
Did they sign him today?
Yeah, they just
now.
Yeah. Because he visits.
I'm going to DeMeco after this. I want to ask him.
He's
about
like 42 years old.
That's crazy.
It's like, hey, like Mercedes is a Bronco. How does that make you feel? Like, could you still play for the Texans?
That's
like,
wild.
If Aziz gets hurt, you're gonna step in this weekend to help out, like Mercedes is helping out. But yeah, the
and you know what's interesting? Like, if they beat the Broncos, like we're all intellectually honest enough to say if they beat the Broncos, that is a good win because it's against a good team. If they do it ugly, there's parts where you say, all right, A win is a win. It's a good team. You don't make any apologies for beating any team, let alone a good team. And even an ugly win against a good team is certainly acceptable. However, let's see where we can get better. And that's also what the coaching staff is doing. The coaching staff doesn't walk in the building on Monday if you win this game 6-3 and be like, hey, everything was perfect. That's exactly what we want to do against a good team like the Broncos. Hell no. That coaching staff walks in and says, hey, a win is a win, fellas. That's what we want to do every week. It doesn't matter how we get it. We want it. However, when we look at the offense, this is where we have got to improve, because when we play the Bills and when we play the Colts, this performance is not going to survive against this team. It did this weekend, and good for us. But we got to be better against the better teams where we want to be at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, like I think like the whole narrative about this team, it either is, to me, it's either set in stone if they lose, or everything changes if they win on Sunday. Like if you beat the Denver Broncos, everything changes, because then it's all I'm thinking about right now for me is like I look at the playoffs like, okay, if the Texans win this weekend, how do you get to the point where week 17 in Los Angeles, that's the team to beat the Chargers to secure a playoff spot? Like that to me feels like the path we're headed down. I think when you look at the standings in the AFC right now, the Patriots are going to make the playoffs, the Bills are going to make the playoffs. I think there's going to be one team from the AFC North. You're going to have the Colts make it, and then the Broncos and the Chiefs are going to make it. So the two teams in front of you then are currently Jacksonville, which you can take care of business, and I think they're going to fall off. And then there's the Chargers, who are in the playoffs right now. Like that to me is the path to the Houston Texans making the playoffs, is finding a way to be even with the Chargers when you play them in week 17, and that game right there is pretty much going to be win or go home. Like that's what this weekend to me sets up, is a path to that game being your first playoff game of the season.
Yeah, we're getting to the point of the season where things are starting to shake out. Like if you had this bottle of tequila, Blue Star tequila, and I had this bottle, and for like if the season's starting to shake up negatively, you take a shot, and then if it's a positive, it's a good win, I start to take a shot. Like more of that bottle's gone.
Yes.
So if you start to if they lose to the Broncos, like we're closer to finishing the bottle, and your season is defined that way versus this way. We're not deciding it. Eventually, the season is going to be what it's going to be. We're going to be at 13 games. Like, we're at that point where you can say the season is young, but you can also be like, oh, we're halfway through.
Yeah, we're halfway through.
In week 8, guys. Like the season is not young, but it also is young. Like there is a lot of football to be played. So right now is that witching hour of trying to really figure out who you are. And to be fair, you have to beat the Broncos because they're the next team on your schedule. Like the Texans are in a space where they have to stack wins. If they had won the first 3 games like they should have, you can lose to the Broncos.
Yep.
Like you're still in a good spot. You can lose to the Jaguars. You're still in a good spot if you beat them the first time. All you're really asking for in division outside the Titans games are to split. So they've put themselves in a position where the rubber's meeting the road a little bit sooner than you would like.
Yeah, I mean, like just looking at like these team schedules, like the Chargers, like okay, you play the Broncos. If you lose, you're 3-5. Well, the Chargers are playing the Titans on Sunday.
Yeah.
So they're going to move to they're going to move to 6-3.
They're like 15.5-point favorites.
Jacksonville's playing the Raiders this weekend, who have been a disaster this season. So like you lose these games, and that's where it's like, okay, like I mean their next game is in November. Like it's November 2nd is the next football game for the Texans. Like football's almost over, which sucks. But like it's like like we're grooving through this season. It's like it is like this is to me it's like it's make or break right now. Like you want to be a playoff team, you want to like really prove that, like as Cal McNair said when he met with the media on Tuesday, that like you're in a good spot, which like all right, Cal.
I have no problem saying that though.
I know.
I know. And again, and I don't have a problem with like DeMeco blowing smoke at times because you don't want to get up there and say a bunch of crap. But he also has said some things that, you know, he threw. I don't know if he threw Derek Stingley Jr. under the bus or not, but when Sting was asked about what he was supposed to do, he said, "I did what I was supposed to do."
I think that's ultimately like what that whole media thing it comes down to is that conversation. It feels like for the most part. There's a couple other things like I think there's some personal beef happening.
Oh, there's definitely
between.
I'll tell you that. Here's what I'll say. I'm not gonna say anything, but y'all don't know everything.
Yeah,
y'all don't know everything.
There's some personal beef happening, but like the Stingley one is where it's like it's okay. Like, are you supposed to press or are you not supposed to press? And the messaging is different. And you know, Jeremy and I have gone back and forth with that this week about what DeMeco was saying and what Stingley was saying. It's like, okay, well, if every single time they move Jackson Smith and Jigba in motion, it changes your plan, then it makes sense why you weren't pressing.
Then say it.
Exactly. Just say it, and then no one has these
Our
questions.
plan was to press, but we couldn't because they changed. Like, okay,
Yes.
well, no one gives a damn. Okay,
Yes.
whatever, dude.
It's where I think just giving a little more to the media and the fans, like, while like we don't mean everything, it provides some clarification on why you're saying one thing and another thing happened. Because it just, to me, it's like I don't know what else to make of it. Like when you're saying the plan was this and you didn't execute it. And again, like what you said earlier, we know football, but we don't know as much football as they do.
Yeah.
So all we can do is make these leaps, unless they're going to explain to us like we're 5.
All we can do is take them at their word.
Yeah.
Like when you get up at the podium, whether you're the press secretary of the White House or DeMeco Ryans, head coach of the Texans, what you're saying is at least going to be taken, like what you're saying is truthful. Now we can also understand that are some white lies.
There's
like last year that the offensive line was doing well. No one believed that. And then your actions in the offseason said that the offensive line wasn't doing good and you didn't believe in Bobby Slowick. So we get that. However, when you're so secretive and you're trying to say nothing all the time and always trying to hide something, one, that makes the media want to be investigative versus just kind of going through the flow of things. So that turns a press corps into investigative journalists. So then they're more curious and they're finding things out. And then when you don't want to say anything and you don't want to say that like, oh, the Seahawks did something so we didn't press, but the goal was to press. All right, so then you, like, whatever. All right, cool. Then you don't have extra follow-up questions. You also don't put Sting in a bad situation. Like, it just stop trying to be so secretive.
I think
it helps you.
Yes, I think just a little more transparency would help everybody with everything.
And it also came the same week that DeMeco said it's frustrating when you coach your players to do something and they don't do it.
Yes.
That is a flat-out quote. Well, it's not a quote. It's a flat-out idea of what he said. It's like, it's frustrating. He's like, it's confusing when you coach your players to do something and they go out and they don't do it. Something like that, obviously paraphrasing. But that comes the same week of the Derek Stingley, DeMeco Ryans discrepancy. So you can kind of line these up together and kind of grab the evidence of like, is there a confusion?
Yes.
And some people did that. I wasn't involved in that whole process, but like, there's nothing wrong with what happened.
No, not at all.
No one did anyone dirty.
No. Trade deadline. Next show we do, it will be passed. Do you feel like right now, I think a lot of it does probably depend on the outcome of Sunday's game. Do you want to see the Texans be active in acquiring players or selling players if they lose, or what do you kind of view it?
Sell. I don't know who you could sell. So I'm anti-sell. Christian Kirk.
Yeah, like Christian Kirk and Danielle Hunter's been the name I've brought up a bunch,
hard
but like
on that.
I just don't think DeMeco would ever do it, and I don't think
he's just the foundation of who you are.
Yeah, and even like even though I've said now in this podcast, like I think Sunday's a make or break game, like you're still 3-5, and like your season's not over.
So I mean, I don't think it is like.
So like,
I think there are more buyers if possible.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, you got to go get this guy because of the salary cap here. Like I don't know all the intricacies of how that's gonna shake out and what's possible. What I would like them to obviously see, what I would obviously like to see them do is get better on the offensive line and maybe running back if need be. But it seems like Woody's finding his footing a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Breece Hall is the name that keeps coming up over and over and over again. And you know,
it seems contrived by some agents.
I know, like it does, because like typically like the Texans have not been a team that's been talked about like on ESPN like almost at all this year, like in any like positive light. And all of a sudden I randomly flip it on to like NFL Live, and they were breaking down like, should the Texans trade for Breece Hall? And I was like, that surprises me a little bit, because I do feel like they take their cues a little bit from like, hey Shefty, is this a good topic, or like we totally wasting our time here, kind of a thing. So like it's like it feels maybe there is some truth to it that the Jets are going to sell, and they're going to, which I think does seem obvious at this point. Like, would the Texans need a running back? Yes. Would Breece Hall make a lot of sense? Yes. Like that to me is the one where I'm like, you're not going to get an offensive lineman. Those moves don't get made. Yeah. Like we really.
I mean, you're right.
You rarely ever see offensive linemen get traded at the deadline.
You don't get a good offensive line.
Yeah, it's skill position based, right? Because even if you're a bad team, like you want to protect your quarterback.
It's so typically younger guys that they can get a whole bunch for. Like when the Panthers, not younger, but like productive guys, you get a whole bunch for if you're in rebuild mode. or older guys that are like have a year left that you have no use for, but someone else could use for their playoff run.
Yeah, and Breece Hall is going to be a free agent this offseason. So, would you want to acquire him? That, to me, is my only caveat with the deadline is if you're going to give up a valuable asset, which I would deem like a third-rounder or less, which I think like a third-rounder might get done for Breece Hall. Like, if you're going to go up a third-rounder or...
You can get a lineman, though, for a third-rounder.
I would hope so.
Yeah, it's like I don't know that Breece Hall makes them that much better.
No.
I think the issues start up front.
Agreed. It's like it doesn't fix your left guard problem.
Yeah, either one of them.
Either one of them, because they're both not good. But like, if you were to acquire a player like Breece Hall, I just don't want him to hit free agency. So I just feel like you have to go into mind, you have to have that back channel communication, which I would trust Nick Caserio to have. Like, hey, if we trade for Breece, are we going to be able to put pen to paper and get him under contract to be the running back for the Houston Texans, him and Woody Marks, for the foreseeable future? Like, that to me is my only caveat with the deadline move. Like, I would hate to trade a second, third, even a fourth-round pick for Breece Hall and then just watch him walk away in free agency when this team is going to need to be able to budget well because of the amount of players that are going to be getting paid.
I don't think Breece Hall ends up here. I genuinely don't. That doesn't mean he won't. I could be completely wrong, and we're going to run this back, but you're an idiot. But this is typically how trade rumors get started. And knowing the Texans organization, it does not come from them. Nick isn't calling Schefter and saying, hey, I have an interest in this player. Can you put it out there? That's just not the way Nick operates.
Yeah.
What usually happens is the selling team puts some feelers out there. They tell a reporter. They put it out there. Agents have their players that want to get out of a situation. They definitely put it out there. They give it to Schefter or Ian Rappaport or whoever, and it works that way into the rumor mill. All it is really rumor mills when it comes to the Texans. There's a lot of truth to fire in some spots because other places work that way. Nick doesn't work that way. Nick runs an extremely tight ship. Not a lot gets out, hence where we sit with Joe Mixon. And
he was at the game, though.
Yeah, so he's back in the building, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on.
So I just don't think Breece Hall is coming because that's just not the way Nick operates. What did we hear about Steph Diggs before they got him?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Exactly.
No, they are a tight,
or Joe Mixon.
Yeah, they are a very quiet.
He runs a good operation. He does.
In terms of like that, that's why I think like going back to the DeMeco versus the media thing, like a lot of it goes back to. I don't think it's always frustrations with the media. I think there's some internal frustrations going back to the now new member of the Chicago Bears, CJ Gardner-Johnson injury.
He's now with the Bears?
Yes, he signed with the Bears today.
Why do the teams keep signing him?
He played for Dennis Allen, so.
He's a addition by subtraction, clearly, for this defense.
Agreed.
Very clearly.
But, like, it's like I think it goes back to that injury of, like, hey, he tore his ACL. It was factually reported wrong. Where I think DeMeco's like, that came from somewhere in our building. I don't like that. So I think that's where, like, some of this media versus DeMeco testiness, it kind of all goes back to, like, that moment and the Joe Mixon questions. Last thing I want to hit on here real quick.
Stop being so secretive about it.
I agree.
I think they're protecting him, to be fair.
I agree.
Because I think something crazy happened.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think we're going to find out eventually.
And I want to be like, I like DeMeco Ryans. I think he's a good human being. I think he's a pretty damn good head coach. I think he's got to figure out how to hire an OC and how to make that offense work. Like, I think he's the right guy for this job. I hope he is. Put it that way.
I still hear a player at the podium, not a coach, at times. I think that's sometimes where, like, he wants to protect his players because he's a player.
Well, he definitely wants to protect his players.
Yeah. Last thing here, Aiden Hutchinson signed a 4-year, $180 million contract extension with the Detroit Lions, $141 million guaranteed, highest non-paid quarterback now in the NFL.
Will Anderson be like...
That's exactly my question. Like, is that what we're looking for like, Will Anderson is like a 5-year? Because this is an extension for Hutchinson. So, like, this isn't just like a new, like, this isn't the contract that Will Anderson's going to sign. But, like,
he's going to sign more.
Is Will Anderson going to get $142 million guaranteed? Probably, not probably. I would say it's deserved. Like, that's my thought. I would top it. I'm willing to top it right now if I'm Nick Caserio. It's not my money.
I'm about to say, if you're going to top it, you better do it sooner than later.
Oh, yeah.
It's only going up to whoever the next guys do. But you also got to remember, the Lions I don't know everything in detail, but they don't have a whole lot of young players that are really, really good. The Texans have some really good young players on defense that they're going to have to sign.
I'm a surprise here, okay? You ready?
Shoot.
Aiden Hutchinson's 4 years, $80 million.
Right.
Goff 4 years, 212.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra 4 120.
But they're already under contract.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have someone coming up on the books.
They've been the Lions have been paying their
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Like Hutchinson's like the guy on the back end of it.
That's what I mean. Like,
the
so when
Texans
they sign Will,
he's like the second guy, because like a Stingley first and then Will.
Yeah, so Stingley got paid. Will's gonna have to get paid. Yep. CJ's gonna have to get paid. Kamara's gonna have to get paid. Cam Bullock's gonna have to get paid. Like he's gonna get paid. He's not gonna they're not gonna pay him. They're gonna let him walk.
I'm not as high on Kalen Bullock as like when you talk about like the number crunching of like how do you pay all these guys. That was the first one that I was like, hey, you could replace him. Kamara, you have to pay.
Yeah, for sure that. And all right, fine. Let's just take Kalen off for good measure. But that's 4 dudes that are gonna get arguably the most money at their position.
And
when
they
you
know it,
Kamari won't get the most. But.
It's gonna be time to repay Nico.
And then then if you give Kamari something, and it's X years down the road, is Derek going to be like, I want more than that?
Yes.
So then you're just like, I mean, this bubble. That's a different conversation of the NFL salary cap is interesting. You've got to take the quarterback out of the equation. I think.
I agree with you.
You
I think
have to. It just doesn't work.
Yeah,
you're seeing so much crap around the quarterback that the NFL wants their quarterbacks to be great. Hence, you can't touch them. You can't get around them. You protect them at all costs because the fan wants to see the quarterback play. But the problem is if now this NFL salary cap structure is to a degree where it's so bad and it's so high for the quarterbacks, you can't build around them, you don't get to see your quarterback be great. So, hell, if he's healthy, there's no one around him to make him look good or protect him, then you're creating another imbalance that the fans don't want to see.
Yeah, I think I just don't know how, like, I would like them to try to not wait till like the next CBA, which I think is not for another like 5 or 6 years at the earliest.
Oh, it's just you
try
have
to
do
fix
it
that.
Like if you could do it now, you got to do it now.
It's
I
time.
don't know how that works.
Like it's
or
time.
20% goes to it, or whatever it is.
Yes.
Like you can't just consistently throw these salary caps out of whack.
Yeah, because they're massive. I mean, like if like Aiden Hutchinson, $141 million guaranteed as a defensive end.
And what's that per year? He's 4 years.
So it's 4 years, 180 overall.
So that's that's about 45 a year.
Yeah, 45 million.
Okay, so CJ, we're talking 60.
Yes.
That's a huge number every year.
You're talking about having probably close to $155, $165 million in guaranteed money locked up next year, potentially, to CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, Nico Collins, and Derek Stingley Jr. at one time.
Yeah.
For a salary cap that's more than half your cap right there on 4 players. Like that is not easy.
Petrie? I'm not saying you can't replace him, but
he already has a solid contract.
What did he get a 2-year deal?
I think it was like a 2-year deal. Yeah. So
coming up.
Got to pay him. But Will Anderson, congratulations.
Yeah.
Because you just got paid a lot of money in the future, which again, to what you said, basically as soon as the day of the season's over.
As soon as you can pay that dude. I don't know who's next.
Like March 4th or whatever it's going to be this year, like sign it. Midnight, breaking news, Adam Schefter, Will Anderson paid a boatload of money.
And by the way, Myles Garrett throwing a temper tantrum over losing. Bro, you knew what you were getting. You said you weren't going to resign there, and then you got the massive offer, which I have no problem with. Go get your money. But if that's what you wanted...
Don't complain.
Like, you obviously didn't think the Browns were going to be good.
Yeah, like did you think Shedeur Sanders was the savior?
Did you think the Browns organization was going to figure it out all of a sudden?
Shedeur Sanders, who wasn't even on the roster before you signed the contract.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for Myles Garrett. Like,
no, I don't feel bad. It just seems disingenuous. Of like, oh my God, I'm so mad. All I want to do is win. Where's my money? And then
because you could have got traded this offseason. Like you just demand a trade like Micah Parsons did. Like you're good to go. You're not a Cleveland Brown. Congratulations. And you still get paid elsewhere.
It is odd.
It was strange. All right. He's Will Kunkel.
Find me on YouTube. Find me on Instagram. Find me on X and TikTok. Just type in Kunkel. Kicking it with Kunkel on YouTube. Some great episodes recently.
I'm Joe George. You can catch me with Jeremy and Joe Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 right here on ESPN 97.5. This episode's been brought to you by Blue Star Tequila. You can find it near you at plenty of bars and liquor stores right here in Houston. Just go to bluestartequila.com. Go into the search bar, type in Houston, and all the locations will pop up there for you on the map. We'll talk to you next week after hopefully another Texans win and after the NFL trade deadline. Peace.